Good morning. My name is Mr. Tony Gomes. I work for Fleet Fan Support Center here at Naval Base San Diego. Today we're going to talk about suicide prevention. Now I want everybody to look at this training from two perspectives. One, as an individual, how you can identify things in your life and what resources do you know. When Murphy's Law kicks in, an unforeseen circumstance arises, you know which way to go. Secondly, and most importantly, look at this training from a leadership perspective. And I say that to say this. I can come back and talk to the same crew 48 months from today. And in 48 months, each and every one of you can be in a different swim lane as far as upward mobility. Maybe some of you ladies and gents have aspirations becoming an officer, for the State 21 package in. Maybe you go to convention route, Chief, Senior Chief, Master Chief, SEA, CMC, Warrant, LDO, OCS. Regardless of what route you take in the next 48 months, for those that have it, you're gonna get what I call that big Navy view, that 20,000 foot view. And now you're not responsible for yourself, now you're responsible for entire division, entire department, entire command. I work for Fleet Fan Support Center, Naval Base San Diego for a deployment department. So for the most part, I track the entire fleet. And as ships come back from deployment, they fly me out to the ship. I'm on board about 2.5 to 3 weeks. Then during that time, I'm teaching various classes and workshops to get everybody acclimated and reintegrated prior to coming home. So while I'm out there, I'm teaching returning your wife, spouse, significant other, how to return with your kids. For those who are new parents, had kids born while on deployment, how to bond and reconnect with them. Single sailors, how to come back after 6 to 8 month deployment. Also retired Navy, I'm an old school sailor. I came back in the day, probably before a lot of you guys was born. I came back in 80s, 86, 91, USS Ranger, Desert Storm, Desert Shield, Operation Iraqi Freedom, 0304, did a tour in Afghanistan, finished up my college, and came back to work for Fleet Fan Support Center. Now we're here today to talk about suicide prevention. This is not a check in the box. We're not conducting this training because it's Suicide Prevention Month. We're doing this because we have to get better at identifying suicide ideologies. And if we can do that by working as a team. So I'm gonna cut out all the fluff, I'm gonna leave out all the flowery stuff, and I'm gonna get to the meat and potatoes from my perspective of what I see. And I use a baseball analogy when it comes to suicide prevention. So basically there's 3 major stresses in life. That's it. Everyone's running around with their head cut off, stressed out. Sometimes they get depressed. But there's 3 stresses. Everyone deals with the same stresses. You might have dealt with in the past, you might be dealing with it right now, or you're going to deal with it in the future. The 3 major stresses are predicated from relationships, finance, and your career. And they all have a domino effect. Case in point, who can tell me the #1 reason for divorce? Hopefully somebody said finances. There's always that one person that says marriage. I talked to you off the side, shipmate. So these stresses are all predicated from E1 through O10. No one's exempt. So if you're not in a good place financially, now that has problems, causes problems in your relationship. If your relationship is in an unhealthy zone, now it's hard to focus on the mission, qualification, advancement exam. So that's my baseball analogy. We're going to talk about relationship problems, work problems, legal problems, and health problems. Right? And so the first base is relationship problems. Newsflash, everybody's in a relationship. I'm an old school sailor, like I said before, and I love fun facts. First fun fact, regardless what article, what journal, or what source you look up, the #1 stressful job in America for the 5th straight year in a row is active duty military. Here's the thing, you can't take the stress out the Navy. You can't take away going on deployment, getting extended, needs of the Navy, dealing with some of the things that's taking place on board your ship. How do you build resiliency? How do you build coping skills to the everyday stresses? So the first base is relationship. That's people going through divorce, people who are geographical bachelors, unaccompanied tours, single parents, dual military, dual parenting. That's all stresses. Because what makes the Navy and the military as a whole so stressful, we are one of the few entities that deal with both stress. We deal with external stress, right? And that's our everyday lives, relationships, military-wise. We're also dealing with internal stress, and that's like mission-wise, mission readiness. So we kind of get it twofold. The second biggest stressor, first base, is work. And here's why. We all come from different backgrounds and different cultures, and now we come to work. And so what transpires is sometimes that work contains of working long hours, being overworked, being underappreciated, and sometimes it comes with leadership. And unfortunately, sometimes you're gonna come across what I call 3 types of leaders. You're gonna get that outstanding leader, and you'll know when you get that person because you'll go to battle for them. You'll go to war for that person, you'll be in the trenches. And most likely, they're gonna make you a better leader. And then you're gonna come across what I call a mediocre leader, and that's okay. Because then you want to extract the positive aspects of that mediocre leader. Then unfortunately, sometimes you come across what I call toxic leadership, piss poor leadership. And that's going to tell you who you're not going to be when you get in that position. This is all still on first base. Legal problems. Newsflash, if you've been in the Navy since breakfast or you've been in the Navy for 30 years, we've all pushed the envelope at some point in your career where you could have got in trouble. Meaning we're all human, we all make mistakes. So it's that legal stress. So now we have to kind of follow back and see how detrimental that was. Now I know you guys heard the saying, it's the new Navy now, right? But for those who came from the old Navy, and whatever that means to you, if you went to your chain of command in the old Navy with those three major stresses, I mean, you went to your chain of command and you was having a relationship problem, you was going through a divorce, your finances was out of whack, and your career was stagnant, and you went to your chain of command in the old Navy, what did they tell you? Most likely they told you, suck it up, figure it out, wife and kids and come your sea bag, right? And so the new Navy is going to say training time out. They can still tell you to suck it up pertains to needs of the Navy, going on watch, standing duty, going on deployment, but if you're having an underlying issue, Murphy's Law kicks in, they won't tell you to suck it up. And I kind of like this new Navy. I like the resources that it has, because I was in that old Navy. Remember, I came in the Navy back in the 80s. July 1987, I went on deployment, USS Ranger, 5,000 men. It was like Gladiator School. Are you not entertained? That's my favorite movie. I had to throw that in there. So the point I'm trying to make is I like the new Navy because I see where the triad is attending trainings. Your DIVO, your department has they're engaged, and they have open door policy. And that's huge because when I came in, I didn't see my chain of command. Only time I see my chain of command when I was leaving the quarterdeck or quicker as wooden frame hanging on the wall. And they have no open door policy. You can go talk to your CMC, your DIVO. So the point I'm trying to make is now we have avenues. We have swim lanes. We can kind of negate whatever's transpiring. The last major stressor, still first base, is your health problems. This starts to come at the E6 and above level. As you make more rank, you take on more responsibilities. You're responsible for more personnel, more equipment, bigger optars. And so now, if you're an E6 and above, chief, senior chief, master chief, triad, if you're going through a divorce, if somebody in your family passes away, somebody has COVID, you have a financial impact, you got to come to work every day with your poker face on. I'm the LPO, I'm the first class, I'm the chief, I'm the DIVO. So now you got to hold all that in. And what happens, it starts to eat you up. Now you can't eat. You can't sleep, and so that's that physical ailments. So all of that is first base. Remember, this is suicide prevention. We're trying to get ahead of this. Second base is the stress from everything that's taking place on first base. Third base is depression that comes from the stress. And home plate, unfortunately, is attempted suicide or completed suicide. So your job is, bottom of the ninth inning, Game 7, World Series, how do you throw that person out at second base? How do you identify? How do you have the open lines of communication? Because unfortunately, suicide is not prejudice. Don't give a damn what your rank is, what kind of car you drive, how big your house is, what your rank and title is. No one's exempt from dealing with those everyday stresses. And unfortunately, some people come in the Navy already on second base. Everybody who joins the Navy doesn't come from that all-American household. Everybody didn't have two-parent households. 3-car garage, 2,000 square foot homes. There's a lot of people in this Navy, past, present, and future, that come from single parent households, poverty-stricken households, households where physical and mental abuse was running rampant. They might have been touched, molested, sexually assaulted, and they escaped it by joining the Navy. And those who came from that all-American household, on paper, they too could have endured the same things. The point I'm trying to make is be real careful about who you call a dirtbag, who just can't get right, who's not in body fat standards, who's dinked on their qualifications, who's late for watch. Let's try to dig a little bit deeper, peel back that onion, and find the root of the problem. And these are some of the things we're trying to accomplish. We talked about open door policy, and that's huge. I'm a big believer in open door policy, but I'm hoping that that does not become a cliche saying. And I'm not going to search your intelligence, you know what an open door policy is, but I want to show we're abiding by that. And from my perspective, I'm in point of contact with all triads in Metro San Diego. So anytime a commander's in a certain situation during their training cycle, whether gearing up for deployment, coming back from deployment, going for a home port change, things of that nature, I do an executive brief. And I sit down with the triad and I try to pinpoint where they may see a spike in, and we try to negate that by using our services. So part of that is how do we get to a point where we have that open door policy? And I'm seeing a bit of a disconnect. I do a lot of return and reunions. I did over 32 return and reunions in the last decade. And what I'm seeing, a disconnect is between the JEA, the First Class Association, the Chiefs Mess, and the wardroom. There's lack of communication, there's a huge disconnect, and there's not a lot of trust. So how do we kind of get that back and build that trust? And we do that by having an open door policy. But here's what I'm seeing. Because every day you spend on active duty, you become institutionalized. The way you walk, the way you talk, roger that, tracking, make it happen, E5 eval, P for T, ranking boards coming up, and you get so caught up with all this military that we don't get to know our people. And that's the disconnect. If you're in any type of leadership position, you should know who in your division, who in your department, who's married, who's single, who lives in the barracks, who lives in PB, who lives in IB, who's a single parent. Get to know your folks. And so I've challenged you, because this is a time where right here, I will wire you with all my statistics. And I will tell you the story about Admiral Border, right? He's the one who started the Seaman to Admiral program, where you can go from E1 to Chief of Naval Operations. He came in the Navy after his junior year of high school with no diploma. Came in as a PN, now known as PSs. Came as the E1, climbed the ranks, Chief of Naval Operations. He completed suicide. I can tell you about Robin Williams, one of my favorite comedians coming up, Morgan Mindy. I know I'm dating myself with that one. The point I'm trying to make, he completed suicide. Junior Seau, great football player, San Diego Chargers, New England Patriots, he completed suicide. So I started thinking, this is suicide prevention. And unfortunately, they completed suicide. We're trying to prevent it. And so now this is an opportunity to get that disconnect connected back through the JEA, First Class, Chiefs Mess and Wardroom. Get to know your folks. What that means is I challenge you, each and every one of you, up and down the chain of command, E1, the 06. When you come across somebody in your division, in your department, in your command, ask 3 questions. The first question is going to be, what hometown you're from? The second question is going to be, what's one of your favorite hobbies? The third question is, what's a fun fact about you that hardly anybody knows? And if I was in front of the audience right now, I would take 2 minutes. And I'll have everybody turn to the person to the left and turn to the person to the right, and I will ask them to ask those 3 questions. What hometown you from? What's one of your favorite hobbies? And what's a fun fact about you that hardly anybody knows? Go. Everybody bring it back in. Now I do that exercise in order to get to know your people. And so often on board ships, we only get to know those in our division, our department. What I do when I go on board a ship or command, regardless of the community, regardless of base, I always ask one question. And ironically, when I tell this story, I always use the Bohan Mishar for an example. And the question I ask every sailor when I come across them, E1 through 06, Or we ask him, hey, shipmate. And I say, hey, DC1, when's your PRD? And if he says, Mr. Gomes, my PRD is October 2024. You know what that tells me? Most likely he's gonna be on board, obviously for the next 36 months. He's gonna have to do a lot of ups and downs, her household gonna be out of balance, and things of that nature. I asked that same person, shipmate, when's your PRD? He says, November this year, baby. What's that tell me? He's probably rolling out, he's going shore duty, maybe got choice orders in Italy, and his household's gonna be in balance. So I challenge you to build that up. Because when it comes to suicide prevention, they will tell you to be direct. Ask someone, are you contemplating suicide? Are you thinking about harming yourself? And that is true, that's facts. But at the same time, I want you to be able to throttle back. And now you come across somebody who's not quite themselves. The military bearing's falling off. They got a 5 o'clock shadow. They don't seem to have the same beat. Now you can probe those 3 questions. Hey, how about those Steelers? Ain't looking too good, right? Or they won last night. And so now you want to probe, hey, you've been hiking lately. And I haven't been doing much hiking. Now you can say, what's going on, man? Normally you're kind of upbeat. Normally you're hiking every other weekend. And they can maybe they can expose yourself because those are the stresses. Another fun fact on how stressful the Navy is. For only 22% of the people that join the Navy retire. 78% of those who join the Navy will not make it to the 20-year mark because of the stresses of the Navy, meaning going on unaccompanied tours, GBs, PCS mules. Now, if you look at those in your community, that number seems larger. Somebody made chief, somebody made senior, he went LDO, he went ward. But where that statistic stems from, for those who went to boot camp, if you go back to your company boot camp picture, 78% of the people in that picture will not make it to the 20-year mark. Only 22% will, and that's okay. So we're trying to get you to a point that you come in a good state and you leave in a good state. So we got to keep our eye on some of those things. And part of that open door policy is being able to listen, and that's the act, care, treat. Now the biggest thing out of act, care, treat is the listening part.
It's just, there's all this pressure, you know? And sometimes it feels like it's right up on me, and I can just feel it, like literally feel it in my head, and it's relentless, and I don't know if it's going to stop. I mean, that's the thing that scares me the most, is that I don't know if it's ever going to stop.
Yeah. Well, you do have a nail in your head.
It is not about the nail.
Are you sure? Because, I mean, I'll bet if we got that out of there...
Stop trying to fix it.
No, I'm not trying to fix it. I'm just pointing out that maybe the nail is causing...
You always do this. You always try to fix things when what I really need is for you to just listen.
No, see, I don't think that is what you need. I think what you need is to get the nail
See,
out.
you're not even listening now.
Okay, fine. I will listen. Fine.
It's just... Sometimes it's like there's this achy... I don't know what it is. And I'm not sleeping very well at all. And all my sweaters are snagged. I mean, all of them.
Yeah, that sounds really hard.
It is. Thank you. Ow!
Oh, come on.
Ow.
If you would just...
Don't.
So a major aspect of suicide prevention is act, care, treat. And you gotta listen. What that means is someone comes to talk to you and they're venting, don't formulate your reply to fix their problem. You wanna listen. That means stop texting, put your cell phone down, turn your computer monitor off, swing your chair around, stop typing, and give that person your undivided attention. You may see a red flag, and a red flag is a good thing. That's a sign. You can utilize this skill set at home as well as at work. I do it all the time at home. When I come home, my wife wants to vent, she's having a bad day, I gotta tell myself, don't fix her problems, right? And so while she wants to vent, I give it my undivided attention. I put my cell phone down. I'm not a big gamer, if I was, I put my game controller down. Keep my beer in my hand, but as she's venting, I just chime in like this every once in a while. No way, get out of here, you gotta be kidding me. She walks away happy, I walk away, she crazy as hell, talking about something going on for you. The point I'm trying to make is you gotta listen. You gotta hear that red flag. And that's a definition of a true leader. Once again, leadership is not predicated on ranks and titles. That's there for chain of command and have rank privileges. Leadership can be an E1 can be a leader, an E5 can be a leader, an ensign can be a leader, right? It's about character. integrity, values, doing the right thing when no one looking. Most importantly, it's also about being a good listener during suicide prevention. So you stay ready green by being more mindful, right? How do you stay in the present? And I say that to say this. We gotta take a chapter out of a kid's book. And so often kids are in that present state. As an adults, we're always thinking about the future. We're thinking about deadlines and meetings and evals and advancement exams. And so our brain never shuts off. Or we're thinking about the past. We're thinking about how I should have handled something a certain way. I should have said this. There's times where I'm guilty of this as well. When I'm driving home, I look up and I'm at my exit because I was on autopilot the whole time. My brain wasn't shutting down. So to take care of yourself, you got to get into what I call that ready green, being that present state. It's non-judgmental. When it comes time for a kid to go to sleep, what's some of the excuses they make? 5 more minutes, right? Or can I get a glass of water? That child is actually being mindful. They're not worrying about they got put in timeout earlier. They're not worrying about waking up early to go to school. They got a test in the morning. They're trying to buy 5 more minutes. So we got to be more mindful. We're going to talk about some resources. I talked about the new Navy, and I love the resources. And my challenge to you as well is to get to know your resources. It's kind of vague to say resource. You should know about Fleet Fan Support Center, Military One Source, Focus, Navy Marine Corps Relief Society, Armed Forces YMCA. That's getting to know your resources. Another important phone number to know is suicide prevention. If you're in a dark place, you're feeling hopeless, need somebody to talk to, the phone number is 1-800-273-TALK. That's 1-800-273-TALK. Guess what? It's 2020. I get it. A lot of people like to text. I'm a texter myself. And so once again, if you're in that dark place, need somebody to talk to, all you gotta do is text hello to 741-741. Just text hello to 741-741. And that right there are 2 resources that you can use at any time. It's not for yourself, for somebody else. And guess what? If everything in your life right now is copacetic, meaning your relationship's in a good place, your finances are good to go, and your career's right on track, now's the time to put your head on the swivel. Now's the time to look around and see who's not doing so well. Who's coming back off emergency leave? Who's going on emergency leave? Who's going through a divorce? Who's about to separate out the Navy? Who got that Fleet Reserve back? Who's making that transition? You want to touch base and see where they're at, and maybe you can point them in the right direction. So normally, I start all my trainers off with 3 questions. I normally ask, who here, regardless how much time you want to spend in the Navy, wants a successful Navy career? And everybody raise their hand. Then I ask, who here likes money? Once again, everybody raise their hand. Then I ask, who here eventually wants a career outside the Navy? Everybody raise their hand. So I say that to say this. Here's the metaphor that I'll leave you with. When you're on an airplane, and the airplane's about to take off, and the airline stewardess comes over to 1MC, so to speak, and says the cabin loses pressure, and the mask drops down, and you're with the child, who puts the mask on first? You do. You gotta put your mask on yourself first before you help somebody else out. So you tell me you want a successful Navy career, you like money, you want a career outside the Navy, you gotta do a spot check on your own finances. You gotta do a spot check on your own relationship, you gotta do a spot check on your own career. You can't pour from an empty cup. And that's why I recommend that everyone have at least 3 mentors in your life. Very seldom in life will you find one person that's savvy in every aspect of life. You need a mentor for your career to make sure you don't hit every hurdle on the track. You need a mentor financially, somebody in your tax bracket, in your pay grade. You can use for a sounding board to keep you on track. And you need somebody just to kind of vent to, a therapist, your DRC, your chaplain, things of that nature. And that's how we keep everything full circle. And my thing is this, in order to build resiliency and coping skills, you do that in the green. On board the ship, ironically, to put out a fire, you gotta take away one of the sides of the triangle. And to endure the stress of this everyday Navy, you gotta keep that triangle together. That's mental, physical, and spiritual. And that's how you do it. Right now, I want everybody to take their hand and put it on your chest. Everybody. Feel that? That's called purpose. There's a reason you're alive. So don't give up. My name is Mr. Tony Gomes, Fleet Fan Support Center, Naval Base San Diego. I'm out.